Now I want to go even deeper into this subject. Inside the makeshift temples of Cult of Silence, every gesture, every sigh, seemed to carry its own weight, almost palpable. There were no words, only precise, carefully choreographed movements, as if each person there were perfectly attuned to a secret language, incomprehensible to outsiders. The rules were strict and yet gentle in their enforcement. No one needed to shout, threaten, or punish. Silence was the law itself. Every footstep echoed in the empty corridors, reflecting off the weathered walls, reminding the members that every action had meaning, that every moment was sacred. Fear of the unknown permeated every gathering. Newcomers were watched, studied, and quickly learned that any impulsive gesture could shatter the delicate harmony of the service. Anxiety mingled with a strange sense of security. There, amid shadows and flickering candles, was an order absent from the outside world, a stability that contrasted with the chaos that had spread after the collapse of civilization. The absolute silence wasn't just an absence of sound. It was a constant presence, an energy that shaped thoughts, decisions, and even emotions. The collective rituals, performed in the dim light of lanterns or the sunset filtering through broken windows, had an almost hypnotic cadence. There were repetitive movements, specific postures, small offerings reminiscent of objects from the lost world, pieces of burned books, torn photographs, stopped clocks. Each item carried memory. Each act resonated with the past as the participants sought to create meaning in the present. And yet, there was something deeper, almost imperceptible. The silence became worship, not of a conventional deity, but of the very concept of contained existence, a reflection on what remained of humanity. Shadows moved between broken pillars and distant sounds, perhaps the creaking of wood, perhaps the footsteps of an unexpected visitor, added tension and mystery to the atmosphere. The echo of collective breathing filled the space, creating a sense that every presence mattered, that each individual contributed to the invisible energy that kept the cult alive. Some behind-the-scenes stories, told in whispers, hinted at secret meetings, mystical visions, moments when the silence was broken only to convey a hidden truth to the initiates. These narratives were recorded not in books, but in the memories of those who participated, creating an invisible and powerful bond between members. Philosophers and scholars could argue that this pursuit of silence is, in essence, a form of spiritual transformation. When the outside world becomes chaotic and unpredictable, finding control within one's own body and mind, becomes vital. Every ritual, every collective meditation, every mandatory pause was a conscious decision to survive not only physically but spiritually. The journey within the cult of silence reflected the human need to create order from emptiness, to find meaning even when all certainties have crumbled. As the sun set, light filtered through the broken stained glass windows, casting irregular patterns on the stained walls. The members remained motionless, breathing in unison, forming a silent symphony that only those who understood its meaning could feel. Observing these details reveals the cult's profound impact on the mindset of its participants, a combination of fear, reverence, and, in a way, freedom. Each ritual was at once a discipline and a liberation, an act of submission and affirmation of one's own existence. And in the silence hidden among gestures and shadows lay a greater mystery. What they worshipped was not just emptiness, but the very awareness that humanity could be small, fragile, and still find beauty and meaning even in the end. This hidden truth, this sense of something sacred and intangible, permeated every action, every decision, every breath within the cult. Comment below. I am on this journey too. If you could feel the intensity of this silence, if this story made your heart race and your mind imagine what really happens when civilization bows before the unknown, now I want to go even deeper into this subject. As we explore the silent corridors and makeshift temples of the cult of silence, it's impossible not to notice the profound impact this practice has had on those who choose to indulge in it. It's not just a harmless devotion. Each member bears visible and invisible marks, reflections of decisions, fears, and inner searches that intertwine with the very fate of what remains of civilization. The cult, in its apparent serenity, exerts a transformative force, shaping minds, altering perceptions, and creating its own reality within the collapse that reigns outside. Each ritual, each mandatory pause, each breath shared in unison is a subtle yet powerful form of control. And this raises a disturbing question. Are they truly protecting humanity from its own chaos, or merely losing themselves in an obsession with the void? The emotional tension within the service is palpable, between shadows dancing in the dim light and echoes of footsteps lost in the silence. A fine line separates devotion from manipulation. Some participants describe a sense of clarity and purpose, a momentary relief from the weight of the external world, while others, more introspective, sense the presence of something darker. Subtle, almost imperceptible signs indicate that the worship of silence may not be about the silence itself, but about something it conceals. Ancient secrets, ancestral fears, repressed desires that emerge when the physical world crumbles and the human mind desperately searches for meaning. Scholars of social psychology and crisis anthropology have observed similar phenomena in post-apocalyptic scenarios. The need to belong, to believe in something greater than oneself, to create structures and rituals that bring comfort. But here, within the cult of silence, these human tendencies are amplified, distorted, and taken to extremes that border on the philosophical and metaphysical. What do they truly worship? Is it the silence that shields them from the noise of the world, or something darker hidden in the shadows of broken walls, in the stories told in whispers, in the precise gestures that seem to dance between devotion and obsession? The transformation is both internal and external. The body adapts to the rituals, the mind adapts to the slow, controlled rhythm, and the spirit, paradoxically, finds freedom within extremely restrictive limits. It's an experience that forces difficult decisions. To what extent does surrender to worship preserve the remaining humanity, and to what extent does it destroy it? Each step in the hallway, each moment of silent contemplation, carries a duality that blends hope and unease, faith and doubt, belonging and isolation. At the same time, the city that remains around the cult seems to echo its choices. Deserted streets and ruined buildings reflect not only the physical collapse, but also the collective psychological impact. The surviving civilization molds itself around these small bubbles of order and meaning, and the line between protection and manipulation becomes increasingly blurred. The cult's absolute silence is simultaneously calming and unsettling, suggesting that even after the end of the world, the human need for faith, for ritual, for belonging to something greater, persists, but always in distorted, unpredictable forms, capable of creating new mysteries and new revelations. And amidst this enigma, behind-the-scenes stories emerge. Accounts of initiates who claim to have heard voices in the shadows, visions of events that never occurred, or perhaps occurred only in the minds of those seeking meaning in the chaos. It is in this liminal space between reality and imagination, between safety and fear, that the cult finds its strength. Every shadow cast on the wall, every object left silent, every gesture repeated hundreds of times is a fragment of a greater truth, a hidden truth that few dare question. Rituals, however simple they may seem at first glance, carry layers of symbolism and intention. A hand movement, a step forward, a pause to listen to the collective breath. Everything has a purpose, everything shapes the perception of those who participate, and everything contributes to a larger narrative about survival, adaptation, and the eternal human search for meaning. The impact on individuals is profound, but it also serves as a reflection of the impact on civilization itself. Every decision made within the cult reverberates in the outside world, altering not only behaviors, but also the way history will be remembered, reconstructed, and interpreted. Now imagine what remains when the light fades, when the world we knew becomes only memory, and the cult continues its silent journey, protecting or manipulating, depending on who observes. This ambiguity is what makes the cult of silence both fascinating and disturbing. A space where humans attempt to reconcile themselves with the void, but perhaps never fully decipher what they are truly worshiping. Comment below. This makes sense to me if you could feel the tension, doubt, and intensity of this silence, and if the story of this cult provoked in you the same restlessness and curiosity that accompanies each member inside these mysterious temples. And so we come to the end of this immersion into the silent world of the cult, where every shadow, every ritual, and every sigh carries a mystery that seems never ending. If this story piqued your curiosity and made you feel a little of the tension and silence these initiates experience, leave a comment. I'm with you until the end. I want to see who truly followed every detail of this journey. And if you felt a connection with what I shared during this video, don't forget to leave a like. It's a simple way to show that stories like this have an important place and can continue to be explored here on the channel. With each like, each comment, each interaction, we build together this space of reflection and mystery, where the post-apocalypse and the unknown come to life in our imaginations. If you want to continue exploring this dark and fascinating universe, there's a video here that complements this subject. Click and stay with me there. I promise that the next stories will delve even deeper into the enigmas and secrets that silence hides.